And we're back. It's been a long time since episode 1, so thanks to everyone come back to listen to episode 2 of the Overjump podcast. Hopefully we'll get this thing a bit more consistent and we'll get more people on the show. So I've been putting a bit of time and effort into the studio. We've got an extra microphone so we can have some groups in here to do podcasts, which would be really cool. Got something in the pipeline for that, so that's going to be great. Hopefully it won't be too long to episode 3. Today we got Hamish Guy on the podcast, which was really cool. So when we made this podcast initially, the idea was to get in depth to like the story behind the people within our sport, and I think this one's a really cool episode with Hamish Guy where he's very quiet, but you hear about his achievements in our sport and also other sports too. Like he'll talk about his background in the cycling and swimming, and I think his passion kind of shines through, like his achievements, and I think he's got a very cool story to go along with that. So everyone jump in and enjoy the show.
Hey, I got it. Got what? I got record. Oh wow, put it on. Friday already?
So Hamish, thanks for coming in and talking to us today. I guess for me, like, you're kind of new to Toowoomba for me, and like I've never met you really before or anything like that, and you're kind of quiet, I suppose. But I also see that you're very passionate about bikes, and it kind of interests me a bit about maybe like your past and yeah.
No, thanks for having me. It's I've always sort of thought about doing a podcast. Thanks for getting me to come along and sort of talk about my past experiences and that sort of stuff. Yeah, I am very passionate about like motocross, but just sport in general. And I think I've helped a lot of kids out in rural areas and that sort of stuff. So I think my first wife was very passionate about rural kids, and she was a very athletic woman and that sort of stuff, and sort of she got me sort of involved with kids in rural areas, and that's why you see a lot of kids that are very talented come from rural areas. So
when you say rural, you're from Atherton?
Atherton, which is up on the tablelands there inland from Cairns, which is probably about 90 k's inland from Cairns. I moved there in the year 2000.
Yep.
Actually, my first experience was in 96 when I was racing mountain bikes. I did the World Championships up there, and I remember doing a national round before the World Championships up there, and we were riding at the Coranda Range, and I saw a sign that said Atherton and Mareeba, and I said to my brother and that, I said, man, that must be out in the desert, because I'd come from, like I was 18-year-old kid coming from Sydney, and I was like, that must be in the desert. I was like, I can't believe people live up here and that sort of stuff. And there, 4 years later, I was actually living in Atherton, so it was pretty amazing.
And Tully's pretty close to there too, isn't it?
Yes,
It's the highest rainfall in Australia.
Yeah, Tully and Tarzali.
Yeah, so it's just crazy. I think you thought you were going to the desert.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm from inland Queensland, between Cunnamulla and Thargomindah.
Oh yeah.
So it's pretty dry out there.
Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah, the opposite of Tully. Yeah. And what about for you? Like, where did motocross start?
Motocross started when I was like it was always been in my family. Like my dad and my brother were into go-karts when they were sort of like they were younger, and then they got into like motocross and enduro. My brother was like a really good enduro rider.
Yep.
And I remember him when I was a kid. He did the ISDE in Holland, and I think I was just a kid. I remember ringing out when he was in Holland, drowning the bike in one of the canals and that sort of stuff. So it's always been a passion, and I started riding bikes when I was younger and started racing when I was like 10 and 11, and yeah, I've always loved it. And I think I raced until I was about 17, 18, and then I'd moved to Sydney, and it was really hard to ride, and then it wasn't until like 10 years later I moved to Atherton, and then sort of met some people and got back into riding again. So
Yeah, okay, that's crazy. So yeah, you didn't start early like some kids do, obviously, and then you've had a break and you've gotten back into it. And
I think I got faster over the years. It's sort of it's amazing with a lot of sport these days. You find that a lot of like there's a lot of like vets and masters and that into a lot of sports, and you find that people staying competitive for longer or coming back into a sport. I find that I know a lot of people that played sport as a kid, and they seem to go back into it at some stage in their lifetime.
Yep.
That sort of thing. So it's amazing how life can take you and back into sport.
do you think like for younger guys that like who do the grind really early, they talk about it a lot. The guys that do the grind real early and they burn out. Do you think like coming back into it or like starting late can sometimes be a bonus? Because
yeah, absolutely. I think it depends on the sport as well. Like you find that like I was a coach for many years. I was a swimming coach for like 10 years. And I base a lot of my training around swim coaching. So, swim coaching in Australia is a very advanced setup. Like we produce world champions and world record holders at 15, 16, where we shouldn't be, because it's like our bodies, aren't adapted to that level, or we haven't sort of, reached our peak until late 20s. So for us to produce world champions and world record holders at such a young age, it's like it's the training techniques that we produce in Australia through the AIS and that sort of stuff. And I think I base like a lot of my coaching around like those principles. You can take any coaching into anything, but the principles are all the same. It's the same with like say a lot of older people have coaches and that sort of stuff, and and staying fitted for longer and that sort of stuff. So it's as we are getting more educated in the society with training techniques, we're staying in sport for longer for sure.
Yeah, okay. It's I feel like also people, like you were saying, people get their, especially for men, their strongest is usually 25 to 35. Like that kind of group. But that time for motocross, you're already going towards vets. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I came from a cycling background. I did like cycling for many years and raced overseas for many years in cycling. It used to be back then where you couldn't be really competitive as a male cyclist unless you're in that late 20s, because you had that years of development and just time on the bike, and and that, where these days you can find that a lot of cyclists are actually very competitive at a younger age.
Yeah, okay.
And it seems funny because then you find now a lot of motocross riders are actually still competitive at an older age. Like say there used to be like little small windows of everything. Like say swimmers. There was a small window in Australia where that 15 to 18 was when we had all our best swimmers, and same with our motocross riders in this country. They're all under 21. We were all our best riders, and we didn't do anything. And now things are sort of spread wider.
Yeah, okay.
And even with women, like women are like say women cyclists are still very competitive in their 40s against 20-year-olds. So the genders are is getting wider. Like it's not such a narrow window to be competitive.
Yeah, sure. Do you think that's the lifestyle of people now too?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
I think you see a lot more. Like even motocross riders, you see a lot of older guys there now who like to get out there a couple of days a week, and they're training and they're going races and that, and masters classes are very competitive and that sort of stuff. So
oh, definitely. We see it at Echo Valley. Like it's not so much the weekend beer drinking warriors now. It's like those guys, like you say, who are actually a little bit competitive. And
for sure. Like I was at Kilcoy a couple of weeks ago racing, and there was a guy from Tully there, like one of the Brett Oberler, and obviously he's come down like for the race. And then next weekend I actually drove all the way to Mareeba to do it like a night motocross and like sort of thing. So it's like sometimes as adults or like that we actually travel more than like the younger guys will go to a race.
Yeah, I guess it's like hard to be financial too when you're young.
Oh yeah,
and that kind of maybe plays a little bit into it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I got a stepdaughter. She was she's 25 now, but she was a very good cyclist. She got picked to like race for Australia cycling at the World Championships when she was 16. And it's like, we got her into that sport, and we always support her in that sport. So we're, like I see a lot of motocross dads and out there, their sons and that, they turn like 16 or 17 and they finish grade 12 and that, and then they get a job and it's like, well, okay, well, you can pay for it yourself now. And that's stuff.
Yeah.
Well, those guys aren't going to pay for it themselves whatsoever. And I find that disappointing. It's like, well, you get your kids into the sport, you follow it through with them, like you keep until they decide, no, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore, like sort of stuff. Well, like, yeah, the kids are always going to pick, like girls or drinking when they start, maturing and.
Yeah, it's I guess that comes down to the drive of the individual though too, doesn't it? Like what they want,
Yeah, absolutely. Like I see, like I coached, Todd Waters for many years, and Caleb Ward. I've been his mentor. I've coached and mentor since he was like 8. Those two boys are definitely boys that were never interested in anything else but being like professional athletes. They were never interested in drinking or smoking or anything like that. They were just driven to, that's what they wanted to do, and
Yeah, it's awesome to see, I reckon. Especially like these days with the influences they get from like social media and stuff like that, and even pop culture is very like party driven. So like for kids these days, it's like awesome to see people like that, I reckon, that want to become good at something or become a professional at whatever it is, like. Yeah,
like the hardest thing is it's like they see so much like Facebook and Instagram and the media of these young ones partying and going out and having a good time. So it's like a real minority now. Like it's like not a lot of kids want to like do it, but it's great that the kids still want to try and strive to to succeed in a sport that they love doing. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what's driven you for so long to like? Is it competitive nature?
Oh, absolutely. I've been very competitive all my life. I've always coached in the same way. I've always been very competitive with my coaching, but I've been very humble with my coaching. I'm very very humble with the kids. Like I've had many experiences of kids, not being Australian champions or national champions or or state champions or regional champions. I've got more pleasure of these kids improving to be better or being,
yeah, sure.
I think life is about challenge. Like I get disappointed when I see we don't want to, put pressure on kids and that stuff. Where the kids need to be pressure. They strive on pressure. They want to be challenged. Kids want to be challenged. It's like when they get older, when they go for a job, they're fighting for a job.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's teaching them, like the rights and wrongs of life. It's for me, coaching is just not about the sport. It's about life lessons. Giving them skills in life as well. So
do you hate participation awards?
No, not at all. I don't. No, I don't. I don't hate it. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with our next generation of children and what they're going to be when they get older.
Yeah, because I see it's kind of just going back that way. It's you're going to give everyone saying, "Oh, you're so good, and then when they get disappointment, like they don't win that job.
Yeah,
like it's so easy to give up from that. But if you're given a target to say, look, those kids have got first, second, third, but you haven't, that's what you should try to get.
Yes.
So to continually try to achieve something, not give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like we are very competitive. We need that competitiveness to strive to be better people. And but still you have to be humble.
Yeah, sure. I'm not saying that you probably need to be up someone or shame someone for not doing well, but just to let them understand that they to strive.
Quite a few years ago, I was a very good successful cycling coach here in Australia, and especially in Queensland. I had so many good kids here, and and that won a lot of state titles and national medals and that sort of stuff. And we had won state titles up in Queensland at Rockhampton, and there was a professor, Peter Rayburn. He was a professor at the uni there, and he said to me, Hamish, I always love watching your kids race, because it doesn't matter if they're coming first or last, they're giving it their all.
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
And I said, mate, that's what it's all about. I said, I don't really care where they come, as long as they always finish and they have a smile on their face, you know. And you know, I've you know, like I remember one year at state titles for triathlon, I had these 3 boys that got first, second, and third at triathlon for like 12, 13, I think 13, 14 year age group, which was amazing because no one had seen these kids before, whatever, and they smashed all these kids from Brisbane and that, and then I had these 2 young girls that got like, I don't know, I think they got like 6th and 7th or 5th and 6th or something, which got them into the national team. I was more excited about these 2 girls making the national team and getting 5th and 6th than I was of these 3 boys getting 1st, 2nd and 3rd.
Yep.
Because where these girls had come from the year before, where they were just young girls just doing the sport as a social thing, to then, you know, like spending a good 12 months, you know, knuckling down and being very committed to their sport, and then making the national team, you know, and getting 5th and 6th, you know, which was like that for me is just as rewarding as, you know. So it's not about always coming 1st, 2nd and 3rd. It's about these kids bettering themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like you said, that's going to be a life lesson later on to never give up and keep continuing on. So, like with with coaching, like and becoming a coach, like how did that all start? Because you didn't just wake up in the morning like, oh, I'm going to be a coach.
Oh, it was quite funny. Like I met my first wife. She came from Atherton, and she was a very good swimmer. Like Australian class like swimmer and that sort of stuff. And I met her on the Gold Coast, and like I was living on the Gold Coast sort of in my off season, like cycling, because I was a professional cyclist. And my brother owned a push bike shop on the Gold Coast, and we just sort of happened to meet on a bike ride, and it was quite funny where like we were just talking, you know, riding side by side talking, and she said, oh, you know, do you have a girlfriend? And I just laughed at her. I went, girlfriend? That's my last thing I ever wanted in my mind, you know. You know, and then, you know, like obviously, you know, 12 months, you know, later we were living in Atherton together and that sort of stuff. So, and she'd always wanted to take on at least of a swimming pool, and I was looking to retire from cycling and that sort of stuff. I knew nothing about swimming. Like I'd done school in swimming and that sort of stuff, and that's pretty much about it.
Yeah, right.
And it was like, I was like, you know, we're going to move to Atherton and that sort of stuff, and I was like, and I said, well, what am I going to do? And she goes, oh, you know, we'll look after the kiosks and that sort of stuff. We'll see what happens. And then after a few months, this is in the year 2000, with Sydney Olympics came along and that sort of stuff, and you know, we took over the pool in August, and she was like, you're going to have to start coaching. And I'm like, coaching? I said, I don't know anything about swimming, let alone coaching. She goes, no, like I'll write you a program, and you know, you can take the little kids, you know, down the far end of the pool and it's away from their parents, and yeah, go from there. And then, well, that was pretty much what got me hook, line and sinker.
So it was kickboards and noodles for a
while.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff, and playing games with the kids and looking after like the mini squads and little tadpoles and that sort of stuff. And you know, like from that very first year of coaching, you know, like into, you know, within that 12 months I took over the coaching full time, and then yeah, just went on from, you know, I had kids that were in the swimming club, you know, doing that for a couple of years, and then I had some kids, young boys that were keen to do a bit of cycling and that sort of stuff, and then yeah, so some cycling coaching, and got my, you know, qualifications with my cycling coaching, but then brought in a lot of my training techniques I had from swimming, and going to, you know, courses, you know, every year, and clinics and that, and then we had a swimming pool in Atherton that was just an outdoor 50-metre pool. We closed for 6 weeks of the year, you know, like even though the pool was heated, the council still closed it. And then
I can't imagine Atherton getting too cold.
No, it does get cold. Seriously, it does get like cold in winter time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because you're 700 metres above sea level, so it does get cold. And then we decided to go for some funding for the pool, you know, because we wanted to put in a 25-metre indoor pool and that sort of stuff to keep these kids, like, because the lessons, we always had a lessons finish in Easter time, and then the lessons didn't start again until September, so we weren't getting the progression that we were after. Like we were trying to put a program together for the kids in the swimming club, but it was hard because it's like they stopped for 4 months of the year.
Yeah,
so it
sure.
was like, well, gee, we're going like one step forward and two steps back every year.
Same as stepping off the bike for a while.
Yeah, for sure. So we went for funding and we got like a big grant for put a 25-meter indoor pool and a new kiosk and that sort of stuff. And that was pretty much the catalyst of getting like everything started. And then we thought, well, once the first year of the indoor pool came along, we thought, let's get these kids who are swimmers, let's get them into triathlons, like in the off season, to get them in, keep them near the pool and keep them sort of excited about swimming and that sort of stuff. And that's sort of that side took off and then I had a few kids who did motocross, and that got them involved. Like Todd Waters would come involved. So I had all these group of kids.
So did he want to be an Ian Thorpe?
No, not at all. Not an Ian Thorpe at all. Like he'd come to our like gym sessions with the older kids and and do our sort of cross sessions. We did water sessions and that sort of stuff. And I even remember as 16-year-olds, even Ty Simmons coming to a session in the pool and getting flogged.
It's a long way from Burke or where Broken Hill, where he's from.
Yeah, he was. He was. He came up for like a holiday, and it was it was quite a funny holiday for him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that Todd and all that, they're all about 16.
Yeah, I took over Todd. I started coaching him, I think, when he was about 13, 14.
Yep.
Like a lot of stuff we did together was like trial and error. It was like, well, we take a video camera. Like I do all his training sessions that I'd be at all his motocross sessions. We do a lot of videoing. And then we'd go back to the van and we'd check to see what was good and what was bad, and we'd and I'd say to him, like, I don't know everything.
Yeah, sure.
But we try this. If it doesn't work, we'll go on to something else and move and that sort of stuff. So basically looked after him for so that sort of up until about 18, I suppose. And
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what? I'm trying to think. When he was 16, what team was he on? A team?
He was on
KDM.
KDM. Yeah. Basically.
So that's where the Ty Simmons, I think, was maybe.
Yeah,
KDM
absolutely.
too,
Ty Simmons was KDM. I remember Ty Simmons. We went for a trial ride one day over that Christmas period, and had heaps of fun with Ty and that sort of stuff. And then I remember a couple of days later, Todd and Ty went for a trial ride, and then I remember Todd came around home and gone, I don't know where Ty is, because they got chased by the police.
Yeah.
And Todd ended up stopping, right? But Ty kept on going and that sort of stuff. Yeah. So it was a mission to find Ty there for like a few hours.
He camped out
in the middle of nowhere in the back of Atherton or Herberton. Hiding from the cops. It was quite amusing. These 16-year-old kids, because they were riding on the road or whatever on their KDMs.
As you do, when you think you're out in the bush, you can just get away with some stuff.
Yeah,
I used to do it,
Yeah, some fun times. So, and at that time we were I was doing, young Caleb was about 8 or 9 at that time. And it was the days of when KDM were taking their semi to the Sunshine State rounds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that was the big thing. KDM were taking their big semi-trailer to the, to the sunny states, and this is how we should all train and that sort of stuff. And I remember seeing Caleb at Mundubra, and I was talking to his parents there on a Saturday, and I'm like, I sort of heard of them and that sort of stuff, and I knew they were from Ravenshoe. I'm going, you guys have come all the way down from, I live in Atherton too. I said, you guys come all the way down to Atherton for your son that's 8 years of age to race motocross. I'm going, shit, you guys are dedicated, And then basically, I sort of took him on from there, and he used to come into our motocross sessions once a week. And just work on progression, and it was the same principles we did in swimming club. You come to your lessons once a week. You start with a warm up, and you go back and you work on what you did last week, and you move forward, and you do some new stuff, and then you finish off with putting it all together. And that's how he sort of progressed, was just coming in once a week, just okay, what did we work on last week? And during that week when he wasn't with me, he'd work on it, and he became a lot like Todd in his riding style as well. I found Todd, he was I used to call him Mr. Smooth when he was younger. Yeah. Because he was very smooth, and it wasn't until he moved to, I think, Honda, and that he became a very, how can you say, just smash every berm and hit it very hard, and it completely changed his riding. A little bit more
aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
You're saying about that smooth style. I was watching Caleb up at Harvey Bay state titles this year.
Yep.
the ridiculous. Like I couldn't get every bump just looked flat.
Yeah, yeah.
It was ridiculous. He's got quite a weird style too because he kind of sits back a little further.
He does now. Yeah, he never
Yeah.
used to be like that. He sits a lot like sort of upright and off the
Yeah.
back of it. Well, he never used to be like that. He's sort of. I think as he's got taller, he seems to be a lot more straight up.
Yeah, okay.
So he used to like sort of be pretty lay quite low. You know, I'd honestly say that we didn't see the best of Caleb Ward this year. I think we saw glimpses of Caleb Ward. I think we saw glimpses of at Conondale. I think it was in that second moto when he came from like miles back and was a couple of seconds a lap faster than anybody. But he wasn't fit. I don't think he was fit all year. You know, like he. I think with everything that happened with him this year and trying to do his own thing and having a team that was, you know, like we just did it on a shoestring and just doing family and that sort of stuff was quite hard, you know, and, you know, organising his bikes every round and it wasn't until we got a mechanic the last few rounds that things started getting a bit better, you know. But,
Yeah, okay. Is there any word on what's happening for him next year?
Oh, yeah, I do. There's a couple of things happening. It's just, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be a lot of money around at the moment and that sort of stuff.
Sure. Which is a shame because there is this talent out there that needs to be put on a pedestal, given the opportunity to be seen by people, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, he's got a couple of options for next year. I know he's going to New Zealand around Christmas time to do a couple of races over there. I think he's doing the Woodfield GP and that. If he goes any good there, he'll stay there to do the rest of the New Zealand series and
cool.
Get something together for Australia. So if he does stay in Australia, it could be exactly the same as what he did last year, but maybe under a KDM.
Yeah, sure.
Sort of stuff. So.
And now he's got that base, and you know he knows where he can be.
Yeah.
Hopefully for 2019, he hopefully kills it. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I hope so. I think he's a very talented rider. He was he probably wasn't talented in a different way, I suppose. Like Todd Waters was talented. Wouldn't matter what sport he did. Like you put a golf club in his hand, he probably would have been like Australian champion golfer or a tennis player. He would have been good at that. He was just naturally talented. Ball skills, like not ball skills. It's more
like hand-eye.
Yeah, hand-eye coordination and mechanical skills. He's very, very, very talented in that. Caleb Ward was very talented. That he was very dedicated.
Yeah,
probably wasn't if he had to do it, probably surfing, he probably wouldn't be very good at surfing. You know, like he doesn't have that sort of thing. But did a lot of motorbikes, and you know, has ridden a lot, and you know, been very dedicated in that way. So it can go two ways. Like I've coached so many people over the years, where a lot of times you see that the kids that are most talented, right, are the ones majority of the times won't go any further because it's too easy for them.
Yeah, okay,
you know,
sure.
like they become really good, right? But they don't have that last final drive to actually get them to the point of like being, you know, a world champion or something like that, where you find a lot of times that someone who's very dedicated and hardworking will make it at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, it was like funny. I was listening to a Gypsy Tales podcast with Dean Ferris, and he said pretty well the same thing. Like he was driven. That's what he wanted to do, and it was an uphill battle for him to start with. And I guess dedication is, you know,
hard dedication and hard work. You know, like you could say, Dean and Todd have been like arch rivals for
sure
for all their life, and as kids or teenagers, the kid that's the most naturally talented, is always going to win out, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the kid that's going to be the most dedicated and like driven will win out.
Yeah.
Yeah. As an older athlete.
So Caleb Ward, he got MQ Rider of the Year.
Yep.
Which is awesome.
Absolutely.
And I see like his brother Riley.
Yep.
Is doing the Talented Rider program at the moment.
Yep.
So have you worked with Riley much?
Yeah, I have actually over the years. Like his parents have always asked me to do more and more with Riley. I have found Riley to be a kid that has watched a lot of motocross.
Yeah.
And you notice, like, you know, like coaching, if a kid can watch someone that's a really good rider and watch what they're doing, can improve 1,000 times quicker than someone that just goes out and rides. You know, I see kids at motocross and that stuff, and they'll do the race, right, and that'll be it. They don't go and watch the good guys ride and what they do and that sort of stuff. They have no interest. Where you find like Caleb and Riley. Riley's watched Caleb for so many years.
Yep.
They ride pretty much identical. You know what I mean, like, so Riley has watched a lot of motocross, and you know, unfortunately, he has been like played second fiddle for, you know, a long time because of, you know, money and that sort of stuff, and being able to afford to, you know, how many kids they can take racing and that. But I think he's got a lot of talent, and there's no reason why he can't be as fast as Caleb for sure in the next couple of years. Because fitness is his weakness for sure. He's still goofy.
He's only young.
He's a goof. Like, he goofs around all the time, and like he'll be the, you know, the kid that's you know, like you know, always probably in a bit of trouble and that sort of stuff. So it's quite interesting. Years ago, I actually did some coaching with Wilson Todd too. So at the same age, Wilson and Caleb were like sort of, you know, I was coaching Todd at the time, and then Wilson's dad wanted me to coach Wilson, and I had Caleb as well, and it was really hard because it was like they were sort of, you know, only 8 or 9, they were arch enemies, you know, sort of stuff, and it was like, oh, you know, sort of stuff. So it was very difficult to, you know, like.
So was it the same sessions, or was it like you had to like play one day with? Yeah,
absolutely, Wilson, sort of stuff, and like nothing against Alan or anything like that stuff. Wilson's dad, he was pretty full on sort of guy, you know, character. But, you know, he's only one of the best for his kid, I suppose, at the end of the day. But
sure, and he has done well this year, I guess. Now, like, it's proven that
absolutely,
he's pushed him in the right direction.
It was funny because like as a kid, he was the naughtiest kid out there, right? Like, a mate of mine was a school teacher at the school that he like went to school at, and he'd always be in trouble at school, or when he come to like their school would come to swimming lessons, you know, every year, and Wilson at, you know, like 8 and 9 and 10, if there's going to be a kid out of the water first for being in trouble or doing something, it was him always. He was the naughtiest kid, you know, like, and that sort of stuff. And it's funny how you see him these days, and he's you know, like in a motocross, he'd be the quietest kid out there, you know. He doesn't really say too much, but I'm sure behind the scenes there, he still gets up to mischief.
Puts it away for race day.
Yeah, for sure.
So what about for yourself? Like, you've been doing heaps of racing this year. Like, you've been doing we've done some enduros together.
Yep.
You've been racing some motocross. Like,
yeah, I decided this year that I'd for myself I'd do less motocross, and I wanted to do some off-road stuff this year. And so beginning of the year, I thought to myself I'd do, you know, a couple of the Queensland rounds first and the Australian round.
Yep.
And I absolutely had a ball. Like I said to my wife, I said, you know what, this is the most fun I've had in riding in a long time. Like, I'm a very competitive sort of person, but it was more being competitive against myself, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And, you know, like you're racing against other people, but it's as an individual thing and that sort of stuff. So, you know, my goal this year was to do I always have goals myself. Like, I've always taught kids, I always have, like, you know, short-term, mid-term, long-term goals in a year, you know. So you're always working to solve something. And I thought I wanted to do the 4-day this year, and then I was like, you know, I did quite well in the first couple of Aussie rounds and that. And I thought, you know what, bugger doing the 4-day because it's going to cost me $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, like let's save our money and let's go and do the other Australian rounds, you know, and that sort of stuff. So I remember going to one of the rounds in Melbourne, end of May. And like I didn't even have a bike a couple of days before, day before leaving. I had to go on. My bike had blown up, so I had to go and buy a bike the night before. Yep. I was like going to driving to Melbourne, and then change all these parts over, and then driving to Melbourne for 2 days, and then ended up getting really sick, and then that was pretty much the end of my season, the end of May. So it's only been like the last 2 months I sort of got back into riding and racing this year and started enjoying it. But
yeah, and you got yourself a beta, which is pretty...
A beta, yeah, I love the beta. It's great.
It's cool. It's cool to see it out there, man.
Yeah. I've actually been riding one of the Caleb's 450s at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is stock bike.
Yep.
I had it at Kilcoy actually, and I remember being on the start line at Kilcoy, and one of the vets racing, we were waiting for the water truck, they were watering the track, and the guy goes, he looks down at my bike and goes, you got some like spokes? Not spokes, you got some sprocket bolts missing. I was like, oh no. So I race back to the car, and I'm about to tighten up the other ones, and they break off, and I'm like, and I have Caleb's bike there because I was trying to sell it because it was at the shop here in Toowoomba, and they hadn't been able to sell it. So I sort of took it, and then I took it to the racetrack there trying to sell it. And so I just jumped on it,
Yeah.
right? And never ridden it before, and then I ended up winning the first vets race there, and I was like 3 seconds a lap faster than I'd ever been before, and I was like,
So this is his race bike?
No, it's just a stock bike.
Oh, so okay, yeah. So
absolute stock, you know. So and then I took it up to Maribo to do a nighttime motocross last week, and I've always wanted to do a nighttime motocross under lights, and I've seen it before, like they do it in Western Australia, and I know I've done it in Darwin, and the people that run the Maribo Club now, they've come from Darwin, so it was their sort of brainchild.
Okay, yep.
And that, so they had a practice on a Friday night, and then they raced on Saturday night, and it was the best fun ever. And I was so happy that there was a club like the Mariba Club, thought outside the square, because I think motocross up in North Queensland this year have been absolutely terrible. Like they've had really low numbers, even to the T&Qs and that sort of stuff. So for a club to actually, think outside the square and let's do a nighttime motocross and let's do a practice night first, right? Raise some money to pay for the lights, right? Which they probably had 50 or 60 riders there on the first night, which they haven't even been getting that to a race meeting. And then the next night they had a race on, so it was, it was things to work on. They want to do some more night races. They want to go for funding, but it was great, and I rode his bike again up there, and I actually loved it. So I've actually bought it back, and then I'm going to buy one of his race bikes from this year as well.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying about like far north Queensland, like what's the scene like compared to here, like in comparison?
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad, yeah.
You can honestly say, like when I first started back into motocross back in the year 2000, I thought to myself, like, I wanted to get back into racing, and they had really good numbers back then. You used to get 120 to 150 riders to a club race up in Cairns or Mariba and that stuff. And over the years, like it's just dropped and dropped and dropped. And this year it's been really bad. I think not many clubs have actually had races, and most races they'll be lucky if they've got like 50 to 60 riders, which is really very poor, So.
Yeah, that's kind of a bit of a shame. Like, it's hard because I think that racing feeds the scene, not so much trail riding doesn't feed the scene.
No. If you look at racing, probably like when like Jats and Caleb and Todd and it was Wade Hunter, when they were like juniors, and they were winning Australian championships. All these kids coming from far north Queensland and going down to the Aussie championships and winning. We had quite a good scene 10 years ago. Probably still, but
yeah.
But yeah, like we've got a few really good kids out there at the moment. There's that Braden Plath that just won the world championship, under 65. He's a great little kid, and there's a Declan McNally or something. He's quite a good young kid up there.
Yeah,
he races for the KTM factory team.
It's just a shame they've got to come so far.
Yeah, they all do.
Competition now.
Yeah, a mate of mine actually, his name's Jesse Holding. He's a great little kid too. He's a good little talent coming through. He reminds me a lot of Todd Waters actually.
Yeah, okay. Why do you think that such good riders have come from up there?
I think very much their mechanical skills still, like their day-to-day, kicking a football, playing in the mud, that sort of stuff is still happening in those country areas.
Yeah, sure.
I think they still, can go riding every afternoon if they wanted to.
That freedom.
Yeah, that freedom for sure, which you don't get that in a city or a town. It's sort of, you've got to travel. Like for me, it's probably better for me to be here going riding, because like if I want to, I can go any day in this southeast corner and go and race on a prep track.
Yeah, sure.
Which for me is great. I love it. Where at home, you got to rely on farmers or a practice day or something to go and ride on track that's half decent.
Yeah. So, what is the pick of the tracks up there? I guess have you got a favourite?
Actually, we do have a favourite. It's where the Wards train. It's actually a family. They're actually Russell and Kim Wormsley. They have a farm at Miller. And they turn it into basically a motocross facility for a lot of kids that come there. And we built a couple of tracks there. Or Caleb built a couple of tracks. And yeah, they're unbelievable tracks.
Yeah, right.
Natural terrain, but they get discs and that sort of stuff. So they are unbelievable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Mariba track is a very good track.
Yeah. Well, I guess now it's under lights. I mean, it's going to be. There's been talking about like lights being put on some tracks here in southwest Queensland.
Yeah, it should be.
Southeast Queensland, sorry. And
I I think Kilcoy should do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, having to spread the bigger tracks, it's a lot harder for the money to put it on there. But like you're right in saying that it makes it more accessible.
Yep.
People can come and do it after work.
Yep.
For
Absolutely.
the cooler weather.
Yeah, I remember years ago coming down, bringing my bike down, and doing practice sessions at Reedy Creek.
Yeah.
On a Wednesday night, absolutely in the middle of winter. You know, and still there were about 50 or 60 people there, and the guys tell me they used to get like 100, 120, 130 riders in summertime on a night time. You know, like
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so
we used to have Hayworth Park here.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Like,
Yep.
You know, and you could go there and do the nighttime sessions there, but that one's gone now too, which is a bit of a shame.
Yep. I think how can I say this? Like, I almost feel that the day is coming to the end of volunteer clubs.
Yeah.
I feel like every club should be run as a business. I feel like that is the future of any club. Unfortunately, but that's just the way it is, and I think motocross clubs will be run as a business, and I feel that will be for the benefit for numbers and that sort of stuff. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, it's like I'm the president of a club,
yeah,
so it's hard to it's hard to. I do agree with you,
yep.
but it's hard for me to say that. But the professionalism you can put in with someone who has an income,
yes,
is a lot better than someone as a volunteer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all become volunteers at some stage in our life, and I've been a volunteer of I was a president for 1 year of the Mariba Club, and I found it quite hard. I was very motivated in the beginning and that sort of stuff, and I just found it was really hard on my home life because I was there like 5 days a week, the track, and the track was prime. We used to have some great practices and some great race days, but I spent a lot of hours there, and in the end it was too hard because it was like I had to work as well and that sort of stuff. So it's so people who give up their time, I commend. It's but I feel like that it is just my opinion, but I do feel that if we want to move forward in the sport, a lot of clubs have to run as a business.
Yeah, sure.
I think thinking outside the square is very important, and like having Mariba putting on lights and having all these people come back in the sport, and there was probably 100 spectators there that come on a Saturday night from Mariba and around the place come to watch. Who so it's like
so the guys that aren't athletes can come and have a beer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So I was like, I was like, well, what's the first club that I could think of that could do that down here? And I thought, like Kilcoy could do that. Like they get. I've always wanted to race at Kilcoy this year, and I've heard they used to get good numbers and that sort of stuff. And I thought, why do they get good numbers? And it wasn't until I went to my first one this year, and it's because of the atmosphere.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's about the atmosphere. The atmosphere of Kilcoy, I feel, is in a 50-meter radius, right? That 50-meter radius is basically at where the start line entry is.
Yep.
That is where it all happens, and I find this is why people come here.
Yeah, well, they got the high five zone there, where you pull off the track and all the kids hang over the fence and go and give them high fives. Yeah. It's that's the coolest part of there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. So it's you got a lot of club days, and it's like it's quite boring, monopolies and that sort of stuff, and you do your race, you sit down, and there's no real atmosphere about it. So it's like how do you bring that atmosphere into the into it? Like say what they did with Mariba track, they actually made the track a little bit smaller as well. The lap was only like a minute 7 or something. They cut a bit of a section and that sort of stuff. So you could do the same at Kilcoy. I know a lap there's almost 2 minutes, but you can cut off quite a lot of the section and just make it
a nighttime track and
the
full track
on
a
next
day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think the other reason Kilcoy does so well is obviously they've got very good people that help out. But then also their proximity to things is very good too, like close to Coolum, as a hard pack track, and that kind of thing too. They always do really well because of that, I think. Yeah,
I think they get a array of riders from where they're based. They get the people from Coolum or Brisbane or from Toowoomba. They get to go there.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah. So.
Yes, so at our track at the moment, I don't know if you've been out and then had a look.
No, I haven't. I saw quick. You put something on Snapchat the other day, a little sneaky thing there.
Yeah, so
and I was like, I had a quick look and I was like, that looks excellent already.
Yeah, so we've been working pretty hard out there, and we've We definitely had made the track shorter. Yes, there won't be any lights going on at Echo, unfortunately, not yet.
You know, like I look at Echo and I think, like why don't they get big numbers there? And I'm thinking, I can't just go to a motocross and just like sit there and relax. I've got to analyse everything of what goes on, and it's same when I go to Willowbank, I analyse it. I was like, you guys should do this or you should do that, and I try and help them. Like they're running their own business, but I always think, you should do this, and you get more people to come and do this, And I think Echo was on, is it the jumps are a bit intimidating, or is it something that's not quite, they don't get big numbers there, even though it's probably the best track in Australia, like for an elite rider, right? But for the mundane sort of people, the everyday rider, is it really a good track for most people? And that's the hardest thing, because you got to build a track, unfortunately, here that can cater for like basically 65s to the big bikes,
and it's the hard part where you draw the line where you can make a track where the kids can come and do everything.
Yep.
But are they learning things?
Yep.
You know what I mean too, and then it goes back to what we were saying before about striving to be something. Like for the little guys that come to the track and say, the junior lights are doing that jump. Like a kid on 85 sees a junior light doing a jump. One day I want to be able to do that jump.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very important. I think, like I've had, when I was at Mariba Club there, I used to have, like a bit of arguments over the time where, little DV1s and DV2s, the parents wanted to do the whole track. I went, no, the kids aren't doing that. I said, they can grow into them doing the bigger track, you know? Sure. Like they go, when I get older, or when I get to 65, I get to do the whole track, and that's the stuff where, it's the same with, what you were just saying there about, there's the easy way, and then there's the the real good way of doing it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the track we've built now is a track that, like, go back. I'd love to see us produce some champions. You know what I mean? Yep. I can't remember the last champion we've had from Toowoomba, Troy Carroll, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
We've had kids do well, and we've had riders do well. But to say anyone make it to that elite level from Toowoomba in a while has been...
Yeah. We've got young Caleb Burham.
Yeah, Caleb Burham, yeah.
Yep. But we haven't got a national champion. The guy who's actually at the pinnacle of the sport, and that's what we're looking at. Like, they're, multi-time national junior champion or something like that. Toowoomba doesn't have that yet. So.
Yeah, sure.
But how do you produce them? Like that's the question.
It's hard, yeah. But I think from us, aiming to do that, it's maybe a good thing.
Like I was happy, like I think when I talked to you in the beginning of the season, what the club wanted to do this year was look after the club more than than anything else. Was to try and develop the young kids and juniors and that sort of stuff. I think having come and try days is really important.
Yeah, sure.
But then capturing those kids, like it's actually getting straight to those kids straight away, and then having something for them like straight away. It's like it's always great to have come and try days.
Yeah.
Right? But okay, it's like, well, we had a come and try day, and that was great, and we had a good time, and that's the stuff. And young Johnny and Sarah, they loved it, and that was it. It's like, okay, as a club, do we say, okay, we've got a coaching day on, next weekend, and you're welcome, or you have a coach there that's got a private track, and they go, okay, we can do kickstart programs, or we can do this, we can get your kids into a bit of coaching, and and
so you've got them, and then you've got to hook them.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the, going back a little bit, what North Queensland needs to do too? Like, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a bike up there, and I see it also when I go go west, and these little towns. I went to a trail ride at Chinchilla, and there was so many bikes, but like 2 people I knew that actually raced.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of factors involved. It's the cost. I think it's the cost to go racing is a big factor. I think at Kuya last weekend, they had a 2-day trial ride there. There was like 1,300 bikes.
Yeah.
There, you know what I mean? Like, how do they get 1,300 bikes there? There's nothing there for them. But you go to a 2-day enduro, and I think, what do we have there? Not even 80 riders.
Yeah, 80.
Something like that. You know what I mean? Like, sort of stuff. It's like, what like you sort of look at yourself and you think, how do you capture those people? North Queensland a couple of years ago, or I think they just still do it this year. They had a development series, which was great.
Yeah, okay. How does that work?
It's just basically a development series. It's like a 4-race series. It's a fantastic idea. They got Glenn McDonald involved. So they did a race meeting every weekend for 4 weeks.
Yep.
Right. They and what they did is that they had coaching on the first day with Glenn, and then they raced on the Sunday. So
Yeah, right.
over the 4 weeks, they're hoping to see the kids, and adults, develop and get better over that 4-week period. So it's a great idea. You know, I'm not sure if they could do that down here, or get the 4 clubs together and have, like, involved. You know, you could get on a, you could get Kukoi or, what other clubs around here?
Oh, I've got Chinchilla, Warwick,
yeah,
Gumby.
absolutely. Yeah, you got a few clubs here. Get them
Yeah.
involved. Go and say, let's do a development series. Let's get one coach, just one coach. That's all you need, and do, you know, it's an interclub thing, you know, and say, let's do a race meeting 4 weeks in a row. We do the coaching on Saturday. We do, 80, 65, like 50, 65s, 80s in the morning, or do seniors, or, bigger blokes in the afternoon, and then, have the coach there on the Sunday, where they can go and ask questions and that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, sure. Then you almost got like your little your mechanic, not a mechanic, but you've got like your mental mechanic on the Sunday.
It's a mentor. Yeah, absolutely.
Come off the track and he's like, "Yep, remember we forgot to put our leg up."
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So you see a lot of like people that race these days and that sort of stuff. There's it's like swimming. Swimming is a classic example of stroke development. It's never-ending stroke development. You mean, like, it's even the Enthorpes of this world and the Grant Hackett's and all that. They get stroke development almost every lap, or in on the end of every set. They get told something about their stroke, or they've got to perfect it and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
It's the same with motocross. There's no difference. It's like it's about technique, and that sort of stuff.
So have you got some tips for maybe people, like, to,
do what I say, not what I do?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you were saying, like, when you were saying, like, Riley watches his brother,
yes, yeah,
and he's learning from the best.
Yep.
I'm thinking I've been watching squids, and maybe that's why I'm a squid.
Like, I do the same thing. Like, every time I go and race or go and practice, I always go and watch the best guys out there who are there the day, and watch what they're doing, and try and think and just picture that in my head. Or I'll watch a lot of motocross on TV myself. I haven't, like, the last few years, but I used to watch a lot of motocross, and you just sort of, and you watch what they do, and then you try and simulate that yourself. I think if you can teach your kids to be like that. Like, I even did that with Todd. It was like, when Todd was racing under 19s, we'd always go and watch like the open bike class, you know what I mean? That sort of stuff. And we'll watch Dan Reardon, because Dan Reardon, like, in Australia at that time, he was doing everything completely different than anybody else. Do you mean, like, he was taking the widest lines, or he'll be on the power before turning the corner and that sort of stuff. Like, I thought Dan Reardon in his prime here in Australia was absolutely, like, amazing to watch. It was like a privilege to watch someone ride a bike like how he was in motocross. Like, he was doing things that no one else was doing. And we'd go watch that between motos. Like, I even, like, if you watch video, even like someone like Caroli, right?
Yeah.
He will go and watch. Yeah, he will go and watch the lights class. Right, he won't go and sit in the semi, or sit back and do nothing. He'll go and watch what's going on, so he can put that picture in his head, what he has to do. So
yeah, sure.
I think a picture can say 1,000 words. And a classic example is young Riley, who hasn't done. I can honestly tell you, he hasn't done a lot of riding in his day. Whatsoever. At all. Like, he's done a lot of watching and a lot of sitting beside a motocross track.
Yeah, right. So do you think that people have it good these days, to the fact that they have such a, been able to access video? So, like, I'm sure when you were younger, like, to access watching people, you had to go physically be there.
Yeah, definitely. It is a lot, not say easier, but the information is there for them now.
Yeah, sure.
Like, if you want to be a world champion, not saying you will be a world champion, there are the tools there for you to be a world champion.
Yeah, right.
If you want to be just a club rider and you're just happy to do that, there are the tools there for you to be a good club rider. So it's what you want to be, or what goals that you have to strive to be as good as we want to be.
Yeah, right.
Hey, if I want, I feel like if I didn't have to work and and run a pub and that sort of stuff, and that, gee, I would be probably one of the best guys in Australia in vets, you know what I mean, that sort of stuff, because I could just train every day and that sort of stuff. Like, I find, like, I haven't cycled for a while, but you find that there's a lot of cyclists out there who are, like, probably cycle more now as an older person than they did when I was a kid, because they have time to do it, you know, and they're more competitive now than they were when they were younger, you know, because they it just, there's more events on, or there's more races, or, you know, there wasn't many, you know, say 10, 15 years ago, there was probably no vets racing or masters racing, you know, it was sort of very limited.
So has cycling grown in the last 10 years?
It's gone up and down, I say, in Australia. It's like, we get something really good here in Australia, we get a good national series and that sort of stuff, and then something happens and things become very difficult, or laws change, or getting permits, I find it very hard. I know a few years ago when I first moved here, they had that tour of Toowoomba, and that sort of stuff, and that was like, that grew from just being a Queensland series to a national road series, and it was massive, and then it just stopped because the permits were so hard, and the logistics of it was so hard. So it's a never-ending battle.
I guess it's also the same with motocross, you know, the permits, and it's the same, getting a license is harder and that kind of thing now too. But
I feel that I said to Maruba Club once, I said, you know what, you should actually go for funding to have a motocross club day where it was free, right? Yeah. We paid everyone's entry, and I guarantee you that race meeting would be huge.
It'd be massive.
Yeah. Same with Toowoomba. If you had like, racing this weekend was free, we're paying for your entry fee, we're paying your license. How many people would you get out of the woodwork and that sort of stuff?
I reckon if it was the smallest track in Queensland, or the shittest track in Queensland, and you said free racing, it would be full.
Yeah, definitely. But I do find, like, even like, I look at myself and I go, like, I practice once or twice a week. I go down to Willowbank or QMP, and I find that I don't get much change out of a training session of $100. You know, time I get, you know, pay for fuel, both car, vehicle, $35, and get some for lunch, or you know, get some drinks. There's not much change over $100. You know what I mean? So you think you do that twice a week, it's $200, and you know,
that's love.
Yeah.
You gotta love riding that bike.
Yeah, for sure. So.
And so you're talking about spending money, but to make money, like, you own a pub, which is something a little different. Like,
I do. It's quite funny how like, I was in the swimming industry for like 10 years. And then personal reasons, and you know, I got divorced, and I sold my share of the business to my ex-wife, and then I wasn't doing anything for a few months, and then the guy who owned a pub in Atherton, he said to me, "I want you to come and work for me," and I was like, "Oh mate, I know nothing about alcohol." I still I don't know anything about alcohol, but I don't drink, smoke, or gamble. Right, and I'm a publican. So,
okay.
So it's like I'm not the norm at all.
Straight edge.
Yeah. Straighty 180, they say, and. So he asked me, like, I taught all his kids how to swim and that sort of stuff. He had 6 kids, and he goes, "I'll come and work for me." And I was like, I know nothing. He goes, "Oh no, just come and do stocking one day, you know." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." And then all this, 30 pallets of alcohol, turned up in the morning, and that we had to put him away because he had both bottle shops in town and both shopping centres and that. So it was where the alcohol went, in the sheds and got dispersed before they go to the shops for the week. Well, I didn't know that was for the week. I thought that was for the month.
Yeah, right.
And then it was like. And I was like, oh, gee, this
people
is going
can sink piss.
Yeah. And they were like, I was like, man, this is going to last for a month. And they just look at me, like, these 5 guys look at me going, "No, Hamish, this is going to last a week." And I'm like, "Are you joking me?" And they goes, yeah. Because I was like always at the pool, and I always saw fitness fanatical people and that sort of stuff. And then when I worked at the pub, it was like, oh my God, there's people drink this much. And, all these
total
people.
Opposite.
Yeah, total opposite. And then, I've sort of been in the alcohol industry ever since and that sort of stuff. So,
okay.
So, and that's why I moved to Toowoomba is like, I probably get a little bit sort of, not stale, but a bit of a change. And I've been in, just racing was over, sort of racing a bit up there and that sort of stuff. And thought coming, Southeast Corner is going quite well. I think the Southeast Corner is a very good place to ride a motorbike. I can honestly say.
Yeah, sure.
We got an array of tracks. And I think it's a good place. If you want to be a professional bike rider, I feel like you should be in the Southeast Corner.
Yeah, I feel very lucky to be here. Yep. It's just circumstance that brought me here too. Yep. So
I find Toowoomba is even a classic location of you know, we've got quite a few tracks within 1 hour's drive, you know, from here, you know, if you want to go riding.
Yeah, for
you know.
sure.
Yeah, hour and a half, I suppose.
Yep. Yeah, so now you're running the Great Northern.
Yes, the Great Northern Hotel. It used to
On
be the
Maud Street?
Yes, it used to be the Five Ways Hotel. We, it has been very challenging. It's never ending. It's how can I say? It's a great little pub.
Yeah.
You know, I never really bought it to be in it all the time, but I got stuck in it, you know, sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
sure.
Every time I try and put a manager on or something, or put some managers on, it's sort of, it's always seems...
But I guess that's part of being competitive too. You want to see it do the best, so you're like, oh, I've got to be involved to get it there.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it's, you can never rest on your laurels. You always, you know, like, there's always an issue every day, or there's something going on, or and that sort of stuff. So,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming on. Like,
no, thank you for having me.
It's been awesome, man.
Yeah. I think we could talk for hours. You know, like,
for sure.
you know, like, I've got a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, and that sort of stuff. Like, I can say, like, I have no degree, right, but I have a good eye for. That's been my thing that I found I was really good at. I had a good eye for something. I think I learnt a lot. There was an Australian swimming coach, Don Talbot, right? He wasn't even a swimmer.
Yeah, right.
And he was probably our most successful swimming coach because he had a great eye. And I think that's what I had. I had a great eye over the year, what was good, bad, and different. And never ever thought myself better than anyone else. I thought, you know, a lot of people might think I'm cocky or whatever, but I'm pretty much a quiet person.
Yeah,
know,
well, that's like I said at the start. It's like, yeah, you're very... very quiet, but I guess I saw that, you know, I see little snippets of what you've been doing, and you talk about the wards and, you know, helping out there, and I was really interested just to hear your stories. So
I've got millions of stories, and like, I've got a lot of time for that family, and we've gone through a lot together as a you know, as a family. I've been part of their family for, you know, for a long time. There's been parts there where I haven't been involved with them at all, you know, over the years and that sort of stuff. But it's something that's always drawn us back together, and it's been the love of motorbikes, you know, and their love of motorbikes. And like, I just, you know, I enjoy seeing kids that come from rural areas mixing it up with kids that come from the cities.
Yeah,
you know, like, you should never feel disadvantaged because you live in the middle of nowhere, you know. Oh,
hell no.
Yeah. I actually one classic story was when I was about 18, I was, you know, racing the mountain bike scene, and I was living in Sydney, and they had all these kids used to come down from Cairns, right?
Yep.
Racing, and I'll be like, oh, you guys are amazing. You guys come from the middle of nowhere, like, you know, sort of stuff. You know, like, I can't believe these guys drive down all the way from Cairns, you know, and race push bikes or mountain bikes, you know, and that sort of stuff. And yeah, they used to give it to everyone from the cities and that sort of stuff, and they were mad guys, you know, at the time of Glenn Jacob and that sort of stuff, you know, like, he's like, you know, Glenn Jacob's an icon in the mountain bike, you know, fraternity. So it's,
I guess sometimes the guys from the country, like, I grew up in a town that's probably, I think there's like 60 people there now.
Yeah.
We didn't even have electricity until 92.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, so like, these kids, I think they have their own little drive. Like, I notice it with some of my friends too. You know, they've come from Yow, the name of the town, and it's just an opal mining town.
Yep.
But they've, like, you know, once they've moved away, you know, sometimes you have to because there's no work.
Yep. That
kind of stuff. When you do move away, like, they have done good things. You know, like,
look at, like, say Atherton is a town of 10,000 people. You know, like, I've got two of my best stories. I can actually, if you got time,
I've definitely got time.
Two of my best stories ever. One was a young boy. His name's David Edwards. This is a cycling one, and I do have a motocross one. David Edwards. He was 7 or 8 when he came to me. He was in the swimming club. Fat little tubby kid.
Yep.
Hated swimming. Absolutely hated swimming. And he came because, you know, whoever he went to was after school and care.
Yep.
You know, took him to swimming with the other kids and that sort of stuff. And then I started up the cycling, you know, triathlon cycling kids, and he got caught wind of, you know, we're starting up a cycling club in Atherton, and he got a road bike and came along, and, you know, I was a coach and that sort of stuff. And as a 13-year-old kid, this young boy within 2 years was state champion and national champion.
Yeah, okay.
Right, at cycling. And then by the time he was like 17, he got third place at the World Championships in the under-19 time trial on the road. Right, and this kid at 13 was an absolute nobody. Right, to like 4 years later, he was like a bronze medalist at World Championships in cycling.
So he just found something he loved, and
he found something that he loved, that sort of stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was an absolutely amazing story, and that kid is the most loveliest kid you've ever met in his life, and he's travelled all over the world. He's 26 now, with his cycling, that sort of stuff. But he could have been an absolute nobody.
Yeah,
he might never have ridden a bike in his life, right? But because of chance and that sort of stuff. And another time is like, I coached one stage. I was coaching several different sports. I was coaching like cycling, but I was doing road cycling and track cycling. I was doing mountain biking, with kids, and I was doing triathlon, and I was doing like motocross. Right? And one weekend, I had all these different kids that doing in national championships or national rounds in Australia. So I had this one young boy. He actually, this is on one day, he won the national under 15 track championships.
Yeah.
Right? I had another boy in Tasmania. That was I think it was in Sydney. I had another young boy win national triathlon, right? Juniors in Tasmania. I had Todd's girlfriend, Gillian Burgess, who I coached for like 10 years.
Yeah.
She got second place at Oceania under 19s, right? Also, and then that same weekend, I had Todd Waters win his first pro lights race in one weekend.
That's
and
incredible.
All these kids came from Athens, and they were all under my coaching.
Yep.
And it was amazing because they were all different sports, right?
Yep.
But they all trained together in certain aspects of a week, and they all, in the middle of winter, they all turned up to the training sessions because they all knew that they were all going to turn up there and be, it was more like a team thing, I mean, they all individual sports, they were all from individual backgrounds, but they all had a bond, and it was like those country kids are amazing kids, and they all supported each other and that sort of stuff. So it was amazing. Like I had like 5 national champions in different sports in one weekend.
That's pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I was always very humble, I was never ever thought myself as, like this coach. Like I probably would guarantee you that there would be no other coach in this country would ever do that. That sort of stuff. And it would probably never be done, again,
Yeah.
So, actually, I had a swimmer as well. Yeah, that's right. There was a swimmer, young Amy Allen. Yeah, she got a national medal at the same weekend or something at nationals or something.
That's insane.
It was just amazing.
Yeah,
and here I was that weekend.
If anyone wants a good coach, go to the pub. Apparently.
And it was funny that weekend. I was actually doing my first response at the pool that weekend, because I couldn't actually go anywhere that weekend because it was like, well, who do I choose to go with?
Was it like your phone was just off
all the time? It was like, we're doing this first response course, and I had to do, your 400 meter swim, and then you're doing your first aid for the whole weekend, and it was like, mate, like I've got all these kids, you're just gonna have to bear with me for the whole weekend, sort of stuff. So it was, so I couldn't
swimming with a phone.
So I couldn't go anywhere that whole weekend, sort of stuff, But I was just so proud that the kids did it. There was actually, we did something in the newspaper. I think that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could get you on to talk about this kind of stuff. Like, people should probably want to know about it. Like you said, you're humble and you're quiet about it, but. It's pretty awesome achievements. So
no, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, awesome, mate.
How's that, right?
Perfect.